Hello everyone and welcome to today's YouTube video. We will be looking at Pearl in another video of how to play specific map series. Now, as most of you know, Pearl is the newest map added to the game. It's been here for quite some time, and all things considered, I think it's a really good map. I think Riot actually released a map that's designed less around pro play and more about the crazy shenanigans that can happen in ranked. This map always feels good to play. It's nowhere near as bad as Fractures was on release. The changes they've done to the map have been really healthy, and in comparison to Fracture, they've been very quick. And this is just, in my opinion, this map should be a pleasure to play because not only is it very beautiful with the champion stand in the background, as well as the dome you're in just being underwater. It's a very beautiful map, but also it feels good to play. So, as with the other video, this is going to be very long. It's going to be a video that encompasses how to attack and defend this map, as well as completely different to the other video. Now they are mid, so I have to talk attacker side, defender side, force main side, and mid as well. So disclaimers at the start of the video are: I am currently Ascender 2, I peaked Immortal 1, so you will be learning how to play this map based on my opinion. I will be trying to cover how to play with all specific character classes in the game, but seeing as I am playing Cypher on most of these maps, these will be intended directly for Sentinel players, and everyone else can just learn from that. So, Pearl is great. I like the color scheme. Like I said, it's a very pretty map. It's a very cool idea. I like the entire Pearl map as a whole. I think it's easier to start with A site and move from there because A has a bit less to talk about rather than B, because, well, actually B has less to talk about. Yeah, so we'll start with B side. B side has a bit less to talk about because it's a pretty direct line. The only parts that are very difficult in this map, and what's going to take me a really long time, is to talk about mid. But less talking, more explaining. So, when you push B, you have two options. You can either start walking towards mid shops, or you can go into B club onto B ramp. B ramp, in my opinion, is the place where most people will lose their matches. The reason for that is so this is an unconventional map in the sense that the lane of B main is actually so wide that it cannot be covered by smokes directly. You have to commit to multiple smokes to save yourself from getting killed. And this is specifically for attacker side. Whenever pushing B main, it's best to always leave your entry fraggers to push first. Why am I saying that? Unless your entry fragger is Jet or Raze who don't have flashes, you want whoever has the ability to flash and peek to go first. And the reason for that is, if there is an operator there, or if there is someone playing screen, if there's two people holding close angles, they'll have to peek away from the flash, which gives the rest of the team time to walk up. One thing you don't want to do on this map is be called here, because here is where you will lose most of your 1v1s, because this is where you give time to the enemy team to think about what they want to do. Remember what I said about bind. All the maps in this game to some extent are very momentum based. So, if you can consistently have a blind and use that blind as well as smokes to get to here, then you are already halfway to taking site. This is a very strong position to hold because the entire team can play around here. Obviously, it allows you to push up a bit here as well. Just got to be careful how far you go because then you will be spotted from here. But I strongly recommend trying to get to here. Once you are here, what's most likely going to happen is the enemy team is going to smoke you off. Unlike most maps, smokes here are a bit odd. They're played more as the fear factor rather than actual stopping ability, if that makes sense. So, like I said, the smoke can't really cover everything, especially Brimstone, unless he uses all three of his smokes. If the Brimstone uses all three of his smokes, and your teammates have told you that everyone on the enemy team is playing here, then being here allows you to back up and rotate. Whereas if you were here, you wouldn't have that information. The enemy team wouldn't be afraid to commit utility, because they'll know that you're just stuck here. So, playing aggressive on B long to fish out utility is very important. Just make sure you don't die for it. So, you are attacking, you've somehow managed to take site. What is the next step? Well, let's look at plant spots, shall we? Most people will plant here. This isn't exactly the best plant spot anymore, especially because of how far into sight it is. So, what's your next best spot? Well, you'd think you'd be here, but this is very tricky to do because you're just going to get sprayed down. The standard strategy is you have to have a Sage on this map, because Sage will merely wall across like so, and you get a majority of the time safe plant spot. However, in my opinion, the most underrated plant spot is actually this one. Why is this plant spot very effective? Well, one, if you are on site, simply ask your smokers to smoke this area. It's an unused plant spot. No one will expect the spike to be there, and that smoke will look more like it's trying to cover heaven than it will be trying to cover you. The sage wall, instead of being used here, can be used horizontally to block off mid, and more of it will have to be broken to keep people from getting onto site. As well as, if you know there's plenty of people in you, what you can do is you can wall you hold there, and then they are stuck, and all you have to do is spam utility to get them out. You might say this is a rather risky planting spot because you can kill from above and there, and this is a wall bangable box, but you gotta keep in mind, on this map, you want to give yourself as much advantage once the spike is down as you can. So if you can force people to not leave these areas, they will be stuck in spawn with nothing they can do. Also, Sage, even though she isn't directly an information gathering character, she can tell you there's someone playing mid because they will have to break the wall in order to get onto site. So keep in mind that you have this entire open space to actually plant the spike down. I'll be talking about this plant spot when we come from mid. This map is very complex, probably one of the most complex maps Riot has ever added to the game. It's a bit more user friendly, I'd say, and it's easy to get a hold of, but much like Bind, it is very momentum based. Once you start winning rounds, you're just going to keep winning them. So, on attacker's side, notable things you should remember is that they will have someone there. 100% of the time, there'll be at least 1 or 2 people holding these angles, so watch out for that. This is really strong. Most Euro players, most chamber players, anyone with the movement ability like Raze or Jet will be playing this cubby area because it is unexpected. They might not play around 1, but around round 5, when it will really matter, or an eco round, they will hold here. That's the run you will not check it and you will lose. And I'm speaking from experience because I have had it happen to me. So make sure every time you push this side, at least one person clears out cubby and here. Next, angles that are very common for people to hold is up there, but that's really slow because the rotation from A secret to B tunnel is very long. So the angles that are scary are people will always go into mid, they'll always play U-Haul, and they'll always play here, especially Cypher. You gotta keep in mind, thanks to Acre, Cypher's trap can now be used like this, where he just hides on this side. He puts a second trap across as well, and you won't know he's there. He'll peek into your entire team and shred all of you. Sorry, my bad. The trap is on the wrong side. The trap is meant to go on this side. And then you have to play like that. And then you drop another one and you trap yourself again. Oh, no, sorry, my bad. The actual setup is you drop 2 traps right in the corner there at the start of the round. And then you have to wait. You count, I think, 8 seconds until once the trap goes off, you just take your gun out, you peek out, and you kill the entire enemy team. So you always got to keep in mind that this map is very tricky, especially when the defenders know what they're doing. When it comes to playing against U-Haul, the best thing you can do is pop a smoke here. Especially, Chamber is a crucial character on this map. No ifs, and or buts. I'd say Chamber and Cypher are very good on this map, as well as Sage, but Chamber is a must, because on defense, Chamber will win rounds by himself. That is not an exaggeration, that is an understatement. His power on this map, with the rotation of his teleport, with how well he can effectively hold mid doors, and with how powerful his operator is whenever he gets it on B long, it is incredible how good that character is for his map. As well as another character that's really good is Harbor. I think Harbor, once you master his wave, video coming out soon, he can solo smoke the entire site off, not from main, but from mid shops. From here, Harbor can cut off Link, Heaven, Site, and Hole. That is how powerful Harbor is in the right hands. So make sure you learn Harbor. I also really like him as a character. He really matches the scheme of this entire map. Moving on to, I think we'll talk about attackers mid to B. That's the next step. I've covered pretty much everything there is. Taking B site is very simple. It's sort of a regular site taking step. Be careful of heaven. Heaven is really easy to get caught out, especially because if I go to heaven right now, if the defenders are smart, they'll hold somewhere around here where the only thing you'll really be able to see is their head, and they'll play around this little extension so that they basically hold a pseudo head glitch. Now, if I head over to mid is very weird on this map. Mid on this map holds insane amount of importance. Why? Because if you can't push main, mid will win you the game. I'm not underestimating this. I've had games where we could not take main side. It is impossible. The enemy team just has main locked. They're playing Killjoy or Sage. They're playing multiple Sentinels, and it's just an absolute pain to get past them. But the moment we start going mid, that's the moment we win. So, talking about mid to B, there's two paths you could take. You could either start here, or you could play here. What I'd suggest is, if you are planning to go mid, you go both sides, and you smoke off art instead of smoking off doors, unless you know there's someone right against doors, and then you use your entry fraggers flashes and your entry fraggers utility to get past. Another character that I think is really good for this map is actually Neon. Neon can cut off the entire length of B main, and she can cut off quite a lot of A side just by using her wall above A side. So keep in mind, Neon is quite good on this map as well. If you're pushing mid to B, the reason why this, I believe, is better than pushing into art is because going into A link into here will often get you killed by someone holding that angle. But with mid doors, the only angles you have to be worried about are link and here. But seeing as you have smokes, all you need to do is smoke the box off in link and smoke that. Well, you could say, yeah, but Chamber always puts his trap here. There you go. Chamber trap gone. They know you're here now, but so long as you're shift walking, they don't know how many of you are here, and they also don't know what your next step is. You gotta keep in mind that the reason why mid is so important is what you unlock by going mid. Here, you've got all the choices in the world. I'd even suggest on pistol round that you come here first round. Why? There's two people playing B link, there's 3 in B, that makes 5 people on B in total. Okay, I can go mid connector and take A instantly. That's not gonna happen, but if people are 5 stacking B, you can instantly lock down A. Okay, there's 2 people holding there, there's one holding mid connector, they're very good, they've got judges and operators, there's no way we're taking this. Mid doors into art, you take A side. Okay, B link is completely empty, but there's 2 people holding mid connector. Well, mid connector is now smoked off. We have free access into B link. If at least one person is watching our back as we're pushing, we've just taken B side, and we only really need to worry about B tower. And you also got to keep in mind, from pushing this area, defending B tower is like this angle is easy to do. But if you're aware of it, well, just smoke off tower as well. Anyone playing under tower, right here, they're not going to be able to do much about 5 people pushing. They might hold an off angle, but I've tried to hold this angle, and I will either get killed by someone pushing main with the team, or 5 people pushing here and knowing I'm holding that. So you got to be aware of what angles and where people will be playing whenever you're pushing something. So, moving on. Let's adapt the scenario of there's one person holding B link, one person holding mid connector, and one more person on side, correct? You know this information because if you are here already, then you've been playing a few rounds, and you know that that's how people are playing the map. Well, you push up to B link, there's only a few angles the person can hold. You always want to clear this low cubby because it's an unexpected angle. It's very likely that someone will hold it, and chances are, if there is somebody here that wants to challenge you, well, guess what? You can wallbang the box. So, first thing you want to do is smoke off mid connector as you're walking past and spray the box to force anyone playing here to get the hell away, because you are coming and you're bringing your whole army with you. As you push onto site, obviously it's a bit difficult to communicate because not everyone listens, but if you're playing the smoker, you'll have a bit of an easier time because the only smokes you need to put down are ones covering this area, because the smoke there will cover not only a B tunnel but also B hole, and a smoke up top in case anyone's playing an off angle. That gives you sight for free, and the person in U hole can only peek you here. Now, in off chances they push the smoke, you can just move onto site really quickly and always be watching the smoke at any given time. I shouldn't note that if you do want to climb and you have unreliable teammates, don't carry the spike because you're going to have to do this all yourself. There's no workaround. You're gonna have to do everything for yourself. But yeah, once you are here, very good planting spots are, if the round is almost over, start planting straight away. Keep in mind you've got the safety of 2 smokes watching you, and the other angle you want to plant at is here, in case there's anyone that's pushed up B main, and that way they can't spray through this box, because this box is not wallbangable. As always, I will be going through the wallbang spots in the map, and I'll add timestamps at the end of the video as well. Moving back to mid, this is why mid is so strong on this map. I've said it before, I'll say it time and time again. There are 2 people holding B link. You already know there's 2 people on B, because you've got people pushing B main. So what's your next step? Well, you go mid connector and you trade whoever's playing here, or at least you try to kill them. Well, if they're dead, you've now got a about 10-second route you can take. Make sure you clear art and here before you take side, where you already are on A side. This is why mid is so strong. It's unbelievably strong, especially this area. You have so many choices you can make. This map is all about confusion. You want to be fast, but you want to be fast and unpredictable. You want to confuse your enemy. The rounds I've lost on this map, I've always said to myself, what in the hell were they thinking doing there? Because the plays they were doing were so nonsensical, but they work, because this entire map is a maze. It is massive, but you've got a lot of ways to get around it. So, moving back to mid. Let's see. Well, another thing you can do is, if you know you want to go B and you trade the person here, well, just have your team shift walk and crouch under here. There will be someone here expecting you to come through. That I should note that. But if there isn't, well, now you've got the strongest position you could have as someone on attack. You're in their spawn. This is why mid is so important on this map. And I'm sort of covering both mids here. But once you are in spawn, you can either hold people's rotates, which has gotten me 1 too many free kills, or maybe about 50 too many free kills on this map, or you can choose to push either side. People will be expecting you to come from link and main, but if the enemy team has no idea that you're in the spawn, you are now the strongest player on your team. So, as long as you land your shots, you should have an absolute cakewalk winning the round once you're in the spawn. Let's see. I guess now that we're done with B attacking, I don't think there's anything else I am missing. TLDR this entire speech. If main is not working, and this applies to both sides, start pushing mid. Mid is very difficult to defend correctly. It's going to take a lot of teamwork for the enemy team to re-synergize, because they've been doing such a good job defending main. They're going to have to worry about defending mid as well. Do not be scared of the chamber trap. If you push as a 5 and you take out the chamber trap, you're going to have 4 other teammates behind you ready to trade anyone who peeks you. Remember to use your utility when taking side, and to not hesitate, because as we always know, if you hesitate, the enemy team has time to formulate a plan, and you do not want to let the enemy team have time to think. So, use your utility, have smokes, do not be afraid to push aside, and make sure you let your entry fraggers push first, because you just need that on this map. You cannot push B main as a sentinel, you will get sniped. Mid is super powerful. I'm gonna keep saying that. I want to hammer that in. And this map, everyone needs to play mid. If you're in low elo and you're scared to play mid, that's good. Do you know why? Because it means the enemy team is scared to defend mid. Because that's how this works. If you're scared to push main, if you're scared to push mid, but you can push main, well, the enemy team is definitely going to be scared to defend mid, because they're not going to be as unsure about playing mid as you are. So why not make use of that? You take out the chamber trap, information isn't as easily transferred in this game as people think. I've had times where I've been tagged by the chamber trap, and I'm still behind the enemy team because the chamber forgot to tell them. And there's so much going on like at any given time in this game that it's really easy to just capitalize on the confusion, especially if you've got about 1 or 2 people pushing B main, distracting the enemy team. The chamber might not even realize that you shot down his trap. So, moving on. The reason I left A main for second is because pushing this is a bit odd, right? There's a lot of things that can happen. This hole right here has so much potential, and I'll get to it on defense, but you gotta keep in mind that anything it can do on defense, it can do on attack. As Cypher, if I remember correctly, there is supposed to be a camera spot. I don't think you can do it, but it would be nice if you could pop a camera like up there somewhere. I don't even know. But as any information gathering character with something that can travel, you can clear art for your team. However, it's much better to just clear a site, and the reason for that is you've got so many different places people could be playing. It's unbelievable. I wouldn't recommend taking a site unless you've got an extreme, and I'm talking ludicrous rushdown team. You need your team to be so confident in running at the enemy, like you need them to just hit start and not stop. And the reason I'm saying that is there will be an enemy chamber playing here. That's the first obstacle you're gonna have to deal with. If there's a sage on site, well, she's just walled you off, and she also has a sort of head glitch angle, because if she walls right across here, the only thing you'll be able to see is her head from about back here. If you are pushing site, and I'll get onto this whilst I'm on defense, you have an insurmountable amount of crossfire angles that can be played, so it's very risky. If you clear here and you kill someone, you've just died from dugout. If you push here, there's no one here, and you clear art, you've just died from secret. If you push here and you clear there, well, you've just died from both dugout and secret. Also, the biggest mistake I see people do on attack: stop pushing into the enemy's spawn, for fuck's sake, please. I'm sorry, I know it's really aggressive, but too many times I see my entry fraggers, they come in, right? Super confident. They come in, bop, 1 kill. Bop, 2 kill. Bop, 3 kill. 2-3 people run to the backside, and then they didn't expect there to be an operator or someone with a gun here. 1 tap, 1 tap, 1 tap. Well, you've just taken the game from a 5v2 into a 2v2. And then you get mad at us for losing the round. If you are confident enough to push into spawn, just know that every time you do this, you're putting your team at risk. So how do you actually take a site and do what I've just displayed, just much more effectively? You want to save your information gathering tools until you get to about here, because you want to know as much as you can about the site. Using your servo drone from back here will not do you any good. You want to play risky but smart risks, right? Fade is a lot better because Fade can just chuck a stupid layer thing, and then, you know, the enemy team has to deal with it. You want to shift walk up to about here, then aggressively swing, because this will give the enemy team very little time to react. If there's no one holding here or no one that TP'd there, what you want to do is you want to shift walk up to here and then swing. You want to always swing wide on attack, because anyone holding here will have a much harder time hitting you wide, because they're going to be pre-aiming for your head spot right there, because they'll expect you to swing close, and then they have to bring down their aim for you to swing wide, if that makes sense. If there's no one playing here and you can shift walk all the way up to here, that's really good, because now you've just created an insane amount of ambiguity on this map. So, information gathering. Whilst the enemy team is trying to deal with all the utility that's being thrown on site, that's when you want to push. You want the enemy team as distracted and afraid as possible. Always clear this angle first, otherwise you'll be shot down by the sage playing here. Always have someone watching mid. The sage wall that goes across like this is good, but if you walk a bit too far back, someone here will one-tap you. Now, when I said pushing into spawn is bad, I meant going past secret and flowers. It is perfectly normal for you to want to clear this angle right here close and dugout. Dugout is dangerous, very dangerous. You can lose rounds because of dugout, because all it requires is one person to not be cleared. You start planting default, and Bob's your uncle, they ping you. You just lost the spike, and it's not going to take that much longer for you to get spiked down. So, angles to always clear. Cubby, mid, dugout, and just the tip of spawn. I'm talking. If there's anyone playing this angle or this angle, sorry, I all tabbed out for a second. I should really check if my I'm recording this, because if I'm not, I'll be very angry. Okay, good. I'm recording and the mic is working. We're good. Today is another good day. That's all you want to clear, just the tip of spawn, and then you want to fall back. Not off-site, but play here together, because now you've got 1, 2, 3, 4, and a 5th person. The 5th person, as on attack, always watch your flank. There's guaranteed someone flanking you on this map, because it's so easy to get behind people. So now that we're here, what are good plant spots? I don't always recommend going here for the sole reason that you will die from dugout a few times. I do never plant here. This is terrible, disgusting. Riot should just cut off this plant spot entirely. It is just bait. You will either die from mid or you will get wall spammed through breaks in the dugout. Like, do not plant here. This is a terrible plant spot. Unless you're doing it here, you might have more luck surviving, but I do not recommend this. There's no feasible lineup you can do to get a molly into here unless you are the enemy playing in dugout, which I think that's what Riot was trying to do. Like, if you're playing Viper, you chuck a molly like across like that, but that's super risky because the molly actually has to land, and then you've just told everyone and their grandmother where you're playing. So this is a good plant spot. This is where most people plant. Be careful of dugout if you do plant here. I mostly recommend planting here. You might think that's a bit risky because you've got people there, but you gotta keep in mind, by this time, your entry fraggers are throwing in flowers and secrets, so you've got all the time in the world to plant here. You're still behind the sage wall, so you're completely safe. So, you know, it's a really good plant spot, especially because if your enemy does troll you, and if your team does troll you and they start dying, but you happen to be the person on your team with mollies, it's way easier to swing an open angle than it is to swing that angle there. And the reason for that is the enemy is much more in much more danger. If you don't have mollies, well, you can just smoke off the spike and then spray through the smoke. Or you can smoke off yourself, play into the smoke, and then peek out as they're defusing if there's multiple people there. There's a lot of ambiguity whenever you plant and have to defuse in the open. This angle is pretty good as well, for the sole reason that, well, if you plant there, if they need to strafe, they're always going to strafe to the left. So just aim slightly to the left when you go and peek, because there's no way. Either they're going to stand still or strafe to the left. There's nowhere else they can go. Sorry, not left. It'll be your right and if you're holding here. Other notable plant spots are, if you want to be really risky, you could plant right out of dugout, but that will give away what you're trying to do, because 9 out of 10 times they'll always clear dugout. I don't really see people planting here unless you manage to go through spawn, and if you do come through spawn, it is a good idea to plant here, because once again, if you want to, you can play in dugout, and this is just another pretty open planting spot, and it cuts out the amount of angles your enemy can actually strafe to, especially if you peek flowers or secret. So that is attacking a site. There's not much I have to say about much else I have to say about that. Yeah, it's pretty straightforward. I think what I'm gonna do now is I'm gonna go talk about A mid. A mid is a bit simpler than pushing B mid because you've got more choices there, whereas art only sort of gives you sight and connector. Doesn't mean it's any weaker. If you're losing A main and B mid and B main, try A mid. Like, it's just one of those. I had to take a little break, but I'm back now. Sorry, I had a bit of technical malfunctions. But A mid is interesting in the sense that it is a very awkward angle to push, but it can get you quite a lot of power. I feel like for B Link, you can push B Link as a 5 quite easily because there's a lot of space you can take up as a team of 5. But Art, I'd only ever recommend pushing Art as a 2, maybe a 1. Mostly because there'll always be someone ego testing you by peeking and trying to trade you whenever you're playing in a mid-top. But also because it's just not much you can do if once you're in Art. Like, let's say you kill the person here, you push up into Art, well, now the enemy team knows you're pushing into Link. So that's not, like, this, you don't have the ambiguity of B Link. They know you're pushing into A Link. There's always going to be one person playing here, and the reason for that is because they're watching out for mid doors. Yeah. So if the person that's playing Art dies, well, they know you could be coming here, so you've got to be very careful of someone delay swinging you here, or you just don't clear the angle at all, they drop down and they get a triple kill. I did this literally the other day. So Art I wouldn't recommend pushing, but it's still very good if you want to add ambiguity to your gameplay. I still think at least one person should go Art just to draw attention from A main, but in most cases A main is just way safer to push. But yeah, once you're around here, I did not realize there is a Phoenix. Who's that? Like, is that Breach? Harbor, I think that's Harbor. And then Reyna. Okay. Sorry, I just got distracted. But yeah, once you're about here, this is a pretty good angle to have because on attack especially, you have the ability to basically just cause confusion for the enemy team. Especially if you've got people pushing A main, you can take the person holding this angle out for them. but you gotta make sure that your team is pushing at the same time you are. Because if you push here and your team is not already ready to go outside, then the Sage is gonna kill you and your entire ass team. So make sure you play together. The only reason this isn't good is because if your team isn't pushing A main and you're lurking, the person who's actually playing on A site, and I'll get into this when I talk about defending sites, is probably going to be out A main. So when you're pushing, even if you kill the person in spawn and you start planting, you will die from main. So A mid, not as good as B link, especially not as versatile. But if you do manage to somehow make it into connector, well, now you just have the same versatility as you did on everything I said about B-Link, so I'm not going to go over all of that again. TLDR with A, pushing main is very dependent on how much the enemy team is playing Crossfire, and it's also very dependent on your momentum and how abilities are used. Obviously, whenever I play smokes, I usually smoke this area just to give myself a lot of freedom when pushing side. Because if they can't see me from backside or dugout, taking out this person in mid isn't that difficult. That's what you want to do. Just cut off as much line of sight from secret and flowers and dugout as you can. So, now on to something that might actually be difficult, and that is defending B. B is a bit of an interesting map. Pearl is a bit of an interesting map on defense because there's so many angles you can hold on defense, but not all these angles are good. If you are playing chamber, 100% you should be either playing like here or U-Haul. Even sometimes I'd say just to cause them like confusion, push up. Put your other TP back there, put your first one here, and play around here. Get a pot shot to TP out. This map requires defenders to play surprisingly aggressive to get the most out of it. And so using defense as an aggressive... I'm not getting my words in. What I meant to say was being aggressive on defense is unexpected because it's so counterintuitive to most maps. But with the Cypher buffs now, you can actually trap all the way across here. This is why the Cypher traps are so good now. Like, this stuff is disgusting, man. Like, before you couldn't use the... I think you couldn't use that trap before. This is a new trap, absolutely. I wouldn't even be surprised if you could do, like, a really cheesy... Like, I don't know, trap maybe not all the way across, but you could probably put, like, a really cheesy trap right there. If you get away with it. It's not going to be easy, but, you know, this trap is going to be really good. Like, all of these traps are going to be super strong. Just, obviously, you only have two, but now that you can actually use these traps, they're going to be very powerful. Because before, if you were playing Cypher on this map, the only trap you'd really go for is probably something like that. Did I just find out an overpowered Cypher trap for myself? Yes, I did. I'm going to keep that one in mind. There you go. You guys can use that one as well. But I'm pretty sure you can't do that trap, sadly. But yeah, you can do traps like this now. So this is pretty decent. That's a really good trap you can do. Surprised you can't trap along here. That seems odd. I guess the distance wasn't that strong. But yeah, you probably want to use these traps. These two traps right here, if you want to trap side to keep them from planting, these are really good. Of course, if anyone does plant close, they will see the traps as they're planting. These would be only really useful if they push deep into plant. If you're playing Cypher, this trap is going to be ideal. You want this one. This one's going to be really fucking strong because people are not expecting it to be so deep. Guess you could see if you could, like, I don't know, do another sneaky trap somewhere here. I don't really see any that would work that well. This one would be pretty good. Like, if someone's rushing into plant, if someone wants to push U-Haul, you could trap, like, if you're holding this angle, no one's speaking, you could, like, just quickly drop a trap there and run. And that way, if anyone does try to push into you, or if anyone goes to plant here, they'll get tagged, or they'll have to destroy the trap before they start planting. So, these are all really good traps you can use. Obviously, as chamber, you also want to use your traps here. This is probably where you'll be using your Cypher traps the most. I suggest putting them deep. Like, I'm talking here. And the reason for that is, if you put a Cypher trap here, if the enemy team is smart, they'll see it, and which in most cases they will, and they'll just jump right over it. Like, I'm pretty sure that gets me over it. If not, I can literally crowd jump, and it will not tag me. They can't walk under it, and this is probably the ideal height. This is where you want your Cypher traps to be at, because this way they can't free jump over it. But with, even like from here, I'm sure they could just literally jump over it like that. So, deep Cypher traps, there's nothing they can do about this one. They can't jump over it, they can't crouch under it. think they can't. Yeah, they can't crouch under it. So, the reason why you probably are saying that you don't want to use that trap is because, well, now they can go here. But if you remember, there's always someone playing either art or here to watch for mid doors. So this trap actually works pretty well. But if you are playing chamber, everyone pops a trap there. That they're like either there or there. They're very strong. The closer you can get it to the wall, the better, because that's gonna not only gonna cover this entire area, but it's also gonna mean that the enemy team has to actually swing in deeper to kill your trap. Whereas if you just pop the trap there, they'll be able to kill it from here and walk off, and you'll think there's someone pushing B, but they're not actually pushing it. Sorry, B mid. As I said before on my attacker side video, this is really strong to hold. If you know you're a sentinel and you're getting rushed down B main, give up U-hole, play, and this is completely opposite to what I said about my movement and positioning, but this map is completely different because it's so open that you can literally take side from here. But give up U-hole and come play up here. If they're planting there, there's 100% going to be an enemy waiting for you there. So, you know, you swing that, you one tap, and if there's no one else on the side, you can literally just walk up and kill the person planting. Or you can even get super risky, jump up top if the sage walled off, and now you have free reign to get kills. Because most people don't know how to play against verticality. If you are chamber, you always want to be on site for as long as you can. And as I've said before, there's the really overpowered Cypher trap setup you can do where you just play inside of here. Most people will not expect that. They'll think the Cypher trap is there just to hide a wire or something. Let's see, anything else? I don't think there's anything else about defending B. Oh yeah, if you do want to play around mid, I'd say play this angle first. Even if you get sage walled off, you're now on team. Sorry, you're now on site with your team. And if you're really lucky, if you swing in time, you might actually get walled, sage walled up. Which, you know, you have to have perfect timing for it, but it'd be a pretty decent thing to get to happen to you. As well as anyone else adding pressure on the site is really good, because there have been times where someone will just go straight to plant there and you can just spray them down from this angle. But this also gives you the freedom of falling back to mid and regrouping with your team. Obviously, now that people are going to be using the sage wall to block off mid, that strategy won't be as effective as it once was, but it's still just a really good angle to hold. So yeah, like here, you hold. If you have the ability to dash away, play up. You want to play as aggressive as you can. If there's people pushing A site and A link, there is no reason why you shouldn't try to get behind them. This map is so large that getting behind people is quite easy. If the enemy team has no utility that they're using to stop someone from flanking, you can get here so easily. It's unbelievable. So please, start playing a bit more aggressive on defense. Just because the enemy team is going A doesn't mean you need to rotate through spawn. That's where they're expecting you to come from. Everyone's going to expect you to be here. That's why they push up into here, so they can reach this point before you can and catch you off guard. So instead of doing that, like, just literally come up from behind. Even if you do have to take out chamber utility here, or chamber utility at mid top, you're still causing the enemy team to panic because you're behind them, which could distract them long enough for your team to capitalize on their mistakes. There's not really much to say. Defending this map is actually quite straightforward, unironically. It's only the attacking part that's quite difficult. Anything else to add? There's not really much reason for you, I'd say, to trap a spawn area or tunnel. That serves no purpose. Yeah, just play slightly more aggressive than you would any other map on defense, just because it gives you the freedom to do that. Especially B long. B long is all an aim check. That's why it's like this. Anything else I can add? I guess if you're attacking, I highly recommend the Vandal. If you're defending, I think this is the point where you could switch between the Phantom and the Vandal. But on attack, 10 out of 10 times the Vandal will be your friend, because getting a headshot long range is an instant kill compared to getting a headshot with the Marshal. Marshal? I am so sorry, Phantom. Oh, speaking of, actually, Marshal is a really good bonus buy in this round, especially if you're defending B, because they have to walk all the way up here for the Spectre to actually be effective, whereas one shot to the dome will more than likely kill the enemy team. So, things to note on defending B. It's very important to trap B mid doors, because that is just, it is terrible if you give the enemy team the mid control I was talking about in my attacker side of the video. And it's very key that you keep people off site as you normally would. And remember that this map lets you play slightly more aggressive, so I highly encourage flanking over just running back to defense. Not the entire team shouldn't be flanking, because then they'll just expect you to flank, but at least one person should be lurking and flanking every round. A, as I've said before, A is more difficult to talk about because it's such a unique shape compared to just B. B is a pretty regular box site, but this is a lot of ambiguity here. And I'm going to teach you guys the dirtiest chamber trick you can do, because you don't actually, it's very difficult to tell what chamber TPs do. So a strategy I employ is I put a chamber TP there and a chamber TP there. And what you do is you take the first shot here, TP, and then you're holding this angle, and then as they're pushing side, you peek again. Obviously, you've lost your way out, but if you get a kill with both peaks, then you've not just only won the round for your team, but you've also added so much pressure, and if you do peek and you don't get a kill, you can fall back into dugout and they have to spray you through a wall or push up to you, at which point the person playing flowers can defend you, or the person playing I'm sorry, excuse me, secret can help you out. So once again, play this match as a map as confusing as you can. I don't think the Cypher Trap reaches all the way across, so that's a bit sad. You still have to use the generic door Cypher Trap, and I always recommend doing this one for at least one round, just because the enemy team will probably forget about it. And anything it takes, like even if the enemy team has to stop to destroy it, that's a second of the time gone that you can capitalize on. Other notable Cypher Traps I'd say are probably mostly mid is where I'd use the Cypher Traps, or any trap. Chamber should never be playing this side of the map. I'm sorry, Chamber, even if they're pushing B every single time, unless you're 5-stacking, A every single time, unless you are 5-stacking B for an eco round, Chamber should always be on B. Oh my god, I'm going insane. Unless you are 5-stacking A for an eco round, Chamber should always be on B, because it's just so much better on that side of the map. But yeah, if you're defending A main is really easy to hold. Cypher traps, Cypher cages, smokes, everything. They'll completely smoke off A main with the changes they've done to the entrance. It is very difficult to push this smoke. It should be noted that if you smoke incorrectly, they will be able to see you. But in most cases, a smoke will deter the team from pushing. As well as, if you remember, if they do like to plant in dugout, literally, I'm pretty sure every gun... Well, actually, well, the judges obviously not, but every gun with even like Spectre won't, but most guns with high levels of penetration will go through. Even the Bulldog will go through on wallbang. So like, just keep that in mind. If you know they like to plant there, you could even buy a Sheriff on round 1. I don't know, pop your Cypher camera there. That's a good Cypher camera spot actually. Tag them as they're planting, bang, 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 you just get the kill. You get what I mean, like, do not plant dugout, stay the fuck away from, sorry, do not plant cubby, stay the fuck away from cubby. If you know, one Cypher trip I like to use is this one, because most people plant default anyways, so if they're coming here, they will get Cypher tripped, or they'll have to destroy the Cypher trip before they start planting. You want to do it about that high. A good indicator is you want the bottom of your trip wire to be lining up with that line right there, because that way they can't jump over it, or they can't crawl under it. Anything else to note? If you are playing A for whatever reason as Cypher on Chamber, always make sure to keep an eye on spawn, because if no one's holding mid, then the enemy team has, once again, a lot of power to get into spawn. This area is very interesting, because I don't really know how to hold it. I'm gonna be brutally honest. The strategy I usually employ is thank you, Cypher, I either let another teammate hold art, but if I do hold art, I tend to play a bit further back. Why? Because I value my life a lot more than I value getting an ego peak kill here. I will say, if you're planning to hold this angle, playing here is way better than playing here, unless you're playing Reyna or Phoenix and you want to flash peek and then run away. So if you're holding it as a sentinel, just play as far back as you can, pop a Cypher tripwire, or pop any other kind of utility that might help you. If there's no one coming, rotate as fast as you can. Or play for the site if they're pushing main. I don't know a lot about art. I don't like playing art. I think art is probably the one place you could give up quite easily. Because if anyone does push into mid defender side water, the person playing mid connector will more than likely be able to deal with them unless they get overwhelmed. So I personally don't like playing art on defense. Let's see. I guess I'll talk about post plant real quick, just because it's a bit interesting. If you're retaking as defenders A is really easy to retake because there are so many angles you can push from. You've got 1, 2, 3, 4 that you can push from, and there's 5 of you, so at least one of these angles will have 2 of you if you're retaking as a 5. Even as a 3, there's so much ambiguity you can create. In my opinion, the person pushing secret should always push with the person playing flowers, without a doubt. They should always be playing like in sync. If you can get the person who's pushing secret to play in sync with you, that's really good, because if you distract the people here long enough, they won't pay attention to the guy pushing main and link. The person playing link has to play the slowest, because they're the ones that are most likely to get killed, because they have this entire length of the side that can see them, including people who want to peek off here. So if you're playing a link, wait for your team to call your peek. Do not peek by yourself. If you're pushing a main, you are the crutch. You are like the guy who has all the cards. If you push out and you miss all your shots, the person's secret and flowers can't do shit, man. Like, you have to hit your shots if you're the one flanking, because you have the most power. If you're taking site and you know there's people playing here, you tell the person in link to peek you, they distract the person here, boom, you get the kill, boom, you get the kill, boom, you get a kill. You need to be accurate if you're the one flanking. If you know you can't hit your shots on that day, get someone else to flank for you, please. Playing retake on B is more difficult for the sole reason that everyone knows where you're coming from. Even though you could say you've got a bit of ambiguity with tunnel and tower, it's way harder to do because they're still the same angle. And if someone's holding tunnel, it's not that unbelievable for them to just flick the tower. That is a very, very small micro movement you have to make to switch between the two. And I'm pretty much almost always staying at head level. Like, it's not an easy motion to do. So it's quite difficult to retake B, I'm gonna be honest. Most of the time it'll fall down to if your team can out-aim the enemy team in link because they're ego peeking link, or if they're ego peeking tower. That's how you win. You need the enemy team to have an ego. If the enemy team is playing smart for lineups and they're not ego peeking, B is pretty much almost impossible to take back. Unless you are extremely skilled. Going into U-Haul on B is only allowed if you smoke your way into there, or if the enemy team lets you, because you have to watch here, 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 and U-Haul itself, as well as the close angle. It is really hard to take this space on retake. Not impossible, really hard. If you're defusing, you can counter Sage Wall. If you're not, you've got smokes available to you as sentinels and actual smokers. If you have to defuse, try defusing as fast as you can. Because once you've taken sight and you have the ability to defuse, you know exactly where the enemy team is coming from. Put a little bit of faith in your teammates to defend you. If you know your teammates don't defend you when you're defusing, make them defuse and you defend them. I think that's Pearl done. I'm going to now mute myself and show you all the wallbang spot. All the wallbang spots in Pearl. As always, I will put timestamps at the end of the video to show you where everything is. And if there's any other tips, tricks, advice you have for this map, please leave in the comments down below. As always, don't forget to like the video if you enjoyed it, share it with your friends who you think are struggling with Pearl, and make sure to subscribe so you don't miss another upload. I have been VentorBlack3, and I hope you have a wonderful day.